community, and welcome back to another Keeping It Real with Dr. Nita podcast. I am your host, Dr. Nita Polite Wilson, and I am founder and CEO of Dr. Nita Enterprises, where I am a C-suite trusted advisor and board director, helping other members of the C-suite community reframe diversity conversations from difficult to different. We are back with Rick Girard, and he is the author of the book, Healing Career Wounds, and the founder of Stride Search. Welcome back, Rick. I can't wait to get started.
I'm excited to be back and wearing the same shirt.
Yeah, it's a continuing conversation. So let's get into this. The title of your book is Healing Career Wounds, and you define a career wound as someone's pain, or what Simon Sinek would call their why, but specifically tied to their professional life. And you also go on to say it's the reason someone is dissatisfied with their current job, the thing that's missing from their life, the thing no one ever bothers to ask them about or show any interest in. Tell us more.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, most leaders or managers don't ever sit down with their people and go, like, okay, so what's going on with your career? How can we help you? How can we make things better for you? It's more always about getting the work done. Are you on time with your deadlines? You know, they never check in with that person. So what ends up happening with...
But before you go too much further, I know that previously we've had a conversation. You made a clear distinction between leaders and managers, and we know that exists. Yep. Tell us from your perspective, what's the difference between leaders and managers? And could it be that managers are the ones that don't ask the questions that leaders do?
Yeah, I think there's very few leaders and a lot of managers out there, right? I think, you know, just like I think there's a small percentage of A players and a much bigger pool of B and C players, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, because companies need those types of people. But, you know, to me, a leader is somebody who actually does take the time to, you know, sit down with you and go, hey, how are things in your career? Are we getting you, like, are we the path to where you're looking to go? Yeah. Because really, somebody like me calls and I have a conversation with that person before the manager does. And, you know, it's scary that I know more about their employees than they do. Yeah. And so it's very easy for me to help them get to where they want to go when it's a fairly simple way to retain your employees.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't require artificial intelligence to do that. It just requires sitting down, having a conversation, and listening. So why is it so hard?
Exactly. Yeah. I think we don't like to listen for some reason.
Why is that?
I don't know. You know, I ask myself that all the time. I think, you know, we hear things. Kind of reminds me of that movie. I forgot what it was, but like, oh God, there was a quote, but I think we hear, but we don't listen. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's because we don't listen because we don't necessarily want to hear what somebody has to say.
Wow.
Because then it requires that we have to do some work.
Not necessarily. So there's some circular logic there. And I love what you just said. What I try and help leaders just in general to understand is, especially when it comes to problem solving, too often, and you can weigh in on this, I want you to, too often we listen to solve first. But I'm encouraging leaders to listen to understand, because once you've listened to understand, you might realize that in the solution process, you're not in the picture. The solution might be, you know what, now that I understand what you need to go talk to Rick. Let me make that introduction, and you're out of it. So is part of the challenge with listening the fact that we're too busy trying to solve instead of really understanding what it is we're dealing with?
You know, it's prescription before diagnosis, which is malpractice, right? So,
yes.
Yeah.
Especially in the workplace, malpractice. I love that.
Exactly. Yeah. Somebody smarter than me said that. I borrowed it from but yeah, you know what? I think we want to solve problems as quickly as possible. And a lot of times you don't really get to the root of what the problem is without listening.
That's right.
So, you know, I will say, like, a lot of times I'll have lengthy conversations with people and I won't get anything really deep for like 30 minutes. Right. And then, there's that nugget that they're telling me, that there's that real career wound that we can talk about. And then, you know, they open up. And again, I don't know why managers don't take the time to do that. I think they just care more about production than anything else. But losing an employee is highly unproductive. And, you know, invest the time to like really understand your people, it keeps people there longer. It keeps them thriving. It just creates a good work environment. It makes your life much happier, And I'll say this because I learned this from a place of not being being a manager, right? I was a manager for a very long time, and I still have manager tendencies that I fight.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, great. We can fix that. Let's go.
So I think the 3 magic words that you shared are invest the time, because the time that you invest up front has back end returns when people aren't constantly going through the enter and exit door, right?
Yeah.
And you talk about that a little bit in the book. You also talk about 3 different types of pain: lack of growth, content of work, and management and leadership issues. So let's spend a little time here. Yeah. What do my career wounds have to do with management and leadership issues?
It's funny because it's always a combination of a couple of those, right? So usually when I start talking with somebody, they go, well, in order for me to move up in this company or to work on something else, somebody above me has to die, or something to that effect, right? Yeah. Or there's no ability to move because of XYZ, right? And then then it evolves into, well, have you had a conversation with your manager or your leaders about that? And a lot of times, well, yeah, I've talked to them about it, but there's nothing they can do. And so there's not that conversation that happens of, hey, well, okay, succession planning in a way. So let's figure out how we can get you to where you want to go, even if it means moving you out to a different company, but not being surprised by, hey, I'm giving you 2 weeks notice, and essentially being able to train somebody up, bring them into your role, and then maybe we can create something for somebody. I mean, if you have a small company, you should be able to create roles or help evolve your A players. Because A players will figure out ways to get the job done really, really well. And those conversations just don't happen. So, the bad management conversation usually comes up with, we have a new person that was promoted to manager and he's really struggling with it, or she's really struggling with it. And, as a result, they're micromanaging, they're doing a lot of things because they're probably not getting any training.
Yep.
So then you got this, it's those things you think you're doing it good by promoting somebody, but you're not training them. And then that person's lack of training is driving out the people that they need to do the work.
That's right.
So it's very common.
You've done a disservice to the person you promoted, and you're creating collateral damage for all the people they're leading and don't know how to lead well. Yeah. But let's continue to pull the thread on this. So you mentioned the fact in your book that leaders should not want yes people, but people who are willing to challenge a leader, respectfully, of course. Yeah. You also say that those are the high performers, those that are willing to challenge. And they are not inexpensive, but then again, they're a lot more affordable than a series of bad hires. I know that leaders must know this, yet practice and theory don't seem to meet. What is the problem? Where's the disconnect?
I meet so many leaders that I just had lunch with somebody last week, and she was saying, hey, this person reached out to me. They work at XYZ company. They want to work with me. But I told this person I can't afford them. And I went, what? Where did that come from? And she was already under the mindset that she wasn't going to pursue that person because she just assumed that I think it comes down to us being programmed that we believe that people make job shifts or job changes for more money. And that's the only reason why. And the truth is that's not even true, not even close to being true. It's part of the reason. There are some there are scenarios where people jump because they get $100,000 a year more in an offer or something like that.
Yeah, I jump.
But it's funny though, because I deal with the aftermath of that sometimes. I get those calls maybe 3 or 4 months in going, all right, so I realize why they paid me a lot more money.
Yeah, for all
Why
this
is that?
extra
Oh,
stuff. Yeah, that
this
doesn't make
place
me
is,
happy.
yeah, this place is a train wreck about to hit a plane crash.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one I've never heard before. A train wreck about to hit a plane crash. Okay, that's not a good thing.
I mean, so, a lot of times when people are throwing a lot of money at you, it's because there's a big problem,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so,
You know what? I want to
bringing,
pause right there. I want you to tell us a little bit more about that, because that is something that I've never heard positioned that way. When people want to throw a lot of money at you, it's because there's a big problem. Let's
yeah.
talk about that.
I mean, I see it mostly with larger companies that throw lots of money at candidates, trying to get them to join.
Right.
It's just because, and they're not completely honest in the interview process either.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing, is that you join and day one, here's your book of things to do. Good luck. I'm out.
Yeah.
Right. And then you're just, all of a sudden you're immersed in something that you were sold that really isn't the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Of what you thought you were getting yourself into.
Mm-hmm.
And things change, and it's kind of like, ha, sucker, we got you on board. Good luck.
I think the worst part about that situation is, okay, I'm here, I've discovered that I've been duped, but if you're really hiring me to make change happen, right? And then all of a sudden I'm viewed as going against the grain for having the courage to speak truth about something, like for instance, belonging or the lack thereof, things that would benefit the organization, yet I'm not necessarily seen as high risk if I leave. What are your thoughts on that?
All right, so we're talking about a large company environment or small company environment?
Doesn't even matter. The point is,
it does matter though, because I think there's a
okay.
major difference, I think, between the two. Like, you don't see that so much in a small company.
Okay.
You just don't. I mean, like, no CEO, like when you're a small company, let's say you're below 50,
Right.
and you're crushing it for me, you think I'm going to go, wait, like, you're doing too well. You need to slow down.
Right. And you're telling me too much of what I need to fix. So stop. Right. Nobody says no to that in a small
Nobody
company.
does.
Yeah.
I mean, if
right.
they do,
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
If you do, you're crazy, because
right.
you're not innovating, right? You're not like growing.
Right.
But in a large company, like what I've seen, like what I've witnessed many, many times, is like that, hey, you know what, you're moving too fast, slow down, you're making us all look bad, that sort of thing. And that's
do you know, I've actually been told that one time when I was working.
I don't doubt that.
I was told that. No, literally, you need to walk slower in the hallway. We hear you coming in, you're making us all look bad. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. We're here to get some work done. So it wasn't just me. You've actually heard that.
Oh yeah. That's what happens when B or C players are managing A players.
Wow.
That's my take on it. I mean, the truth is that so other A players want you to move fast and do things because you make them look good. Mm-hmm. I mean, everybody looks good that way. But I think that B and C players are threatened by it, because somehow you're doing all this work, and I would look at it like, oh my God, this person's making me look good, but they don't view it that way. I don't know why, but it's like there's somebody within the organization, and there's also the politics piece to it too, but there's somebody in the organization that's like not really doing that much work. They're just collecting their paycheck. Mm-hmm. And when somebody's coming in and they're turning around a lot of work, you're a threat.
And I think that's a shame. I get it, but it's crazy. And you and I had this conversation offline about that. And you mentioned the fact that in your work and what you do, you see a lot of people at the top being threatened by what someone else would consider, man, you made a great hire. This person makes you look good, but because of their insecurities or whatever's going on, that person doesn't last long.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
I mean, I think people do a great job of screwing up businesses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It just creates more opportunity for other people, though. I mean, I guess.
So I'm going to ask you this question. How can leaders become more aware that that's what they're doing and stop it?
I think they're aware. Whether or not they recognize it is a different story. Like, again, I'm running from the experience of I usually support smaller, faster moving, innovative companies. Like those are the people. And so when I have conversations with people out of large companies who are expressing to me those issues, like you just said, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are great. Like, okay, great. Like you're not positioned for that type of company. I mean, you need to be in a company that's probably a smaller, more agile organization because of, what have you. I think a lot of us growing up, we think, oh God, we got to go work for a name brand company. So, we could be there forever,
Yeah.
maybe our generation, right?
Right.
But and now it's like I got to work for a name brand company because they'll pay me a lot of money and it'll look good on my resume, and then I got to work anywhere afterwards. A lot of these frustrations, like those are the career wounds that like kill people's soul and drive them out.
Yes.
Those are the little things that like, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to sit here and push 8 buttons a day and move on. And, I'm too young to do that. I'm not going to, I'm not going to stick around.
Yeah. So you said the magic words, career wounds, and that's where we're going to pick up next. This conversation up till now has just been kind of exploring a little bit about management and leadership and different aspects that we need to think about before we get into the really deep conversation around career wounds and how that is impacting belonging, so to speak. Community, you have got to come back and see where we go next. Rick's book is amazing. It's Healing Career Wounds, and it's just a fantastic read. And the subtitle is Your Startup and Secret Weapon to Attract, Hire, and Retain Ridiculously Successful People. What we're going to be getting into in our next conversation is what ridiculously successful people can look like in terms of bringing real benefit to your company. In the meantime, if you want to hear this conversation again, the one we had previously, or any other of my podcasts, please do go to my website, dranita.com. On the landing page in the center at the top, click on the link that says Keep It a Real Podcast with Dr. Anita. Subscribe, like, and share, and please give me some feedback. I want to provide content that's going to be most beneficial for you. Until next time, this is Dr. Anita reminding you to stay blessed and keep it real.